Violent collision kills 2 people outside Tampa International Airport.
An alleged road rage attack rips 3 families apart. Tonight, we're learning about the boys who were killed.
Prosecutors are going to pursue charges against people who are texting while driving.
That's right. This DUI and murder suspect could get life in prison if convicted.
You don't think it can happen to you. It can happen to you within seconds, a blink of an eye. When you take your eyes off the road for just seconds, when you're driving your car, oh, yes, it can happen to you. See, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the sands of time will run out within your hourglass. He was a victim of a distracted driver hitting the road while riding his motorcycle going 65 miles per hour. He nearly lost his life. Now on a crusade to help save lives and prevent someone else from becoming a victim, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com and now the host of this podcast, it's Howard Drescher.
All right. Okay. Good Wednesday to you. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. You can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. And I can definitely say that this show is dedicated to all the law enforcement agencies out there who are trying to make a difference. There's a lot of them out there trying to make a difference. I have 3 stories. 3 stories of law enforcement agencies trying to make a difference to try to put a damper on the distracted driving, the DUI driving, the hit and run drivers. It's just got to come to an end. I think more and more law enforcement agencies are starting to recognize what's going on, and maybe they have been recognizing it for a long period of time, and now it's just coming to the forefront of what has been going on. Maybe they have been attacking this, what I'm going to call is a driving pandemic as far as distracted driving goes. Maybe they've been attacking it. Maybe it has not been publicized until I've gotten on the scene. I have had several people tell me that their agencies have been attacking it. Now I've got some stories that are saying just that. You will be amazed. And the only thing I can say on 1 or 2 of these stories, they talk about the fines that are levied if caught. Now, I can tell you in the past, I have levied for some stiff fines. And I've been accused, quite honestly, to tell you the truth, I have been accused of making it too harsh on the perpetrators. Really? I have been making it too hard on the perpetrators. Okay. I'll hear your debate, but here's what I say in that. For the family victims that somebody has killed, they don't get a chance to come back. How harsh is that? They've got to pay for a funeral. They've got to pay hospital bills for the ones that have been seriously injured. Their hospital stays. Their bills mounting up. If they're a breadwinner, now they no longer have a breadwinner in the family. How harsh is that? How harsh is it when something like this happens in an instant, in a blink of an eye? And you hear that in the open. It just takes a blink of an eye for something bad to happen. I've seen it. I've been around it. And I'm a victim of something like that. So go ahead and tell me. Tell me how harsh I am. I don't think I'm very harsh at all when it comes to this kind of stuff. To be perfectly honest with you, I do push the max on these guys. I do believe there should be a state database. So if you're in Chicago, you're in New York, you're in Florida, you're in California, and you get a ticket in one of those states, you should not be able to go to another state, a neighboring state, to one of their DMVs, or even in the same state, going to a DMV in the next town over or the next county over, and they'd have no record of you being the moron that you are, where you have a rap sheet as long as my arm on DUIs, hit and runs, and distracted driving, where you've been locked up in jail before, you've paid a small fine, some slick talking lawyer got you out, and now you're free to do it again. Is it the system's wrong, or do we got some people that know how to circumvent the system? Yeah, I mean, you could take it any way you want. But now I have 3 stories that will say, hey, wait a minute, not in my state. Not in my state. We're going to try to squelch this as soon as possible. And I applaud these states. I really do. And we'll get to these stories in just a few minutes. But let's just say this. California. I love the CHP here. I love everything that the law enforcement agencies do. I've had several California Highway Patrol officers on my show. I have had LAPD officers on my show. I've had a senior district attorney in California here on my show talking about cases like this. We have a few senior district attorneys and district attorneys that want to go after people like this because they don't think they should be on the road being a nuisance to the good drivers that we have here. How many times have you woken up watching your local news? Well, there's a DUI crash. Somebody slammed into this house over here. Somebody slammed into this store over here. Somebody slammed into a law enforcement agency. And I've got a couple of examples of that we could talk about. But now there's people out there that actually are trying to make a difference. I support them, and I believe that the fines should be just a little bit higher, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But right now, it is coming up real soon.
Coming up, we're going to have the top story from the previous show.
Yeah, we're going to have the top story from the previous show. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back. You're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. By the way, when we come back, I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on my YouTube channel. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Papa, why can't we telegraph while riding a horse?
Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro. He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away at his telegraph, when blam! Ran right into the side of the saloon.
Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon.
Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit stoptextstoprex.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV. And, of course, on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. And get the shows, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. Just use the keyword or type in the keyword DistractedDB. And I just want to say...
And now it's time for the top story from the previous show.
It's now time for the top story from the previous show. And quite honestly, from last week's show, I could have used either one of these two stories. I could have used where the innocent bystander motorist was killed while another vehicle was being pursued by the authorities, and he crashed into that car, and a motorist was killed. But I decided to go with this one because this was the one that you all listening voted for, and I appreciate what you guys have done. This also came from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use this sound again. A pickup truck collides with a stopped vehicle in South LA, and a woman inside the vehicle unfortunately lost her life.
I think we can all agree it's sad when anyone loses their life, Jessica, but it's especially that much worse when it's an innocent bystander. Officials say that is what happened here at the termination of this deadly police pursuit. You can see everything's been cleaned up now, but check out what it looked like earlier in this.
Oh, I guess I made a mistake. I apparently deleted the wrong audio piece and inserted the wrong one. So I made a mistake, so we're going to go with either of the stories this week for the top story
Sped
of
off
the week.
and even tried to run over a...
Oh, well, I guess I should cut that up before I brought it up. All right, so anyways, that was a quick abbreviation, wrong abbreviation, and I appreciate you guys. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, the first segment went so smooth. I'm in the second segment, and all I got to do is just hit this button, and I'm good to go. And I would have made no mistakes, but hey, I did. Man, I was hoping to get through a show without a mistake.
That was the top story from the previous show.
All right, that was the top story from the previous show. And quite honestly, to tell you the truth, either story could have been from last week, would have been appropriate for the top story. As I said, both stories came from KTLA Channel 5 here in Los Angeles. So I made a mistake. I will make up for it on the next show and not make any mistakes. At least I will attempt to. There is no guarantees with me. Okay, so you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. So here is an interesting story that I've got. And this story comes from WJXT4 down, and I believe they are in Florida. And this story is one of the ones that kind of caught my eye. And I was doing some research on DistractedDriversBusted.com or Distracted Drivers Busted, or Distracted Drivers, I guess I should say. Again, made two mistakes, so there you go. I was talking about I was doing research on the distracted drivers and what state is stepping up to kind of crack down and take care of business. And again, this story comes from WJXT4, and I appreciate them again for allowing me to use the sound. But this story kind of really hit home with me, and I liked it. So then I started doing more research, and I found two other states. So Florida, thanks for being the leader of the pack on this show.
Making Northeast Florida's roads, the most dangerous ones, safer. You may have noticed extra state troopers along I-95 and along I-10. It's part of Operation Safe Drive, which stands for Distracted, Reckless, Impaired Visibility Enforcement.
Troopers say most crashes are avoidable.
Crashes happen for a reason, and unfortunately, things like cell phones and texting is a huge portion of the cause of those crashes.
News for Jax reporter Vic Micolucci rode along with the Florida Highway Patrol today as they use a unique tool to spot bad drivers.
Vic's joining us live along. Hi, Vic.
And Tarek and Joy, if you saw the state troopers in their cruisers, you probably didn't think twice, but they have another tool in their arsenal. We're talking about a semi-truck. That gives them a higher view of these violators. They were back and forth, up and down this stretch throughout the day, hoping to save lives. Dashcam video from last week shows a close call. A state trooper on the side of JTB sideswiped.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thankfully, no injuries, but look at the damage. It's a prime example of why law enforcement is looking for distracted, reckless, and impaired drivers.
As I come up, I start looking at signs like what his hands are doing, and then I'll pull up alongside, and that's when I can really look into the cab.
We rode along with troopers along I-95 in St. Johns County in both their cruisers and this semi-truck.
We seized this truck years ago from a drug dealer, believe it or not.
This truck is not necessarily undercover, but for someone that's riding by that's distracted or just driving aggressively, they might not notice the Florida Highway Patrol colors or the seal on the door. What they will notice, though, the blue lights in their rearview mirrors. They pulled over this trucker for talking on his phone. You can't do that with the CDL. He claimed he didn't, but evidence showed otherwise. And look at this violator, tailgating a van with just feet in between.
If we can stop people from driving distracted, then I'd like to think that we did something good.
Violations could be expensive, some $500. But it's more than writing tickets. These troopers say it is a teaching opportunity. This stretch is particularly dangerous. Our records show 24 people have been killed in crashes here since 2016, many involving tractor trailers.
That distraction, just that couple of seconds, can cost somebody their lives.
These patrolmen reminding drivers safety on the road is everyone's responsibility. And those state troopers are still going to be doing that special detail into tomorrow on I-95, I-10, and I-75 all throughout the state. They are partnering with the local sheriff's offices and police departments as well. They say they just want everybody to be safe. And if you want a ticket, well, don't drive dangerously. We're live tonight. I'm Vic Micolucci, Channel 4, the local station.
Vic, that highway patrol truck, certainly unexpected. What about other covert tactics?
Well, we don't want to give away all of their secrets, but they do use the air patrol. Those are helicopters and airplanes that sometimes spot speeders and reckless drivers from the sky. They also have undercover vehicles. So you might see those cars and the SUVs that are marked FHP colors, but chances are you've also passed some undercover troopers working. So a lot of eyes out there on the roads.
Got it. Vic Micolucci reporting live for us tonight. Vic, thanks.
All right, and again, that story came from WJXT4 out there in Florida, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. I think what they're doing is great. Now, here's the only problem I have with that is let's raise that fine up just a little bit. I think the first offense, you can probably hit them up with $1,000 because you're going to hit them in their wallet. Will make them think. Because if you just love tap them, ow, that hurt, they're going to still continue to go ahead and do it. They're still going to continue. It's like if you pull somebody off on the side of the road, you write them a ticket, they're going to drive down the road a little bit, then they're just going to pull out their phone again and let all their buddies know, hey, I just got a ticket. Be careful, maybe, either speeding or texting and driving, whatever. But yet, 24 hours later, they're back at doing it again because they don't really give a rat's ass on what they're doing. They think that this is just a big slap in the face. It's not like it's a big deal. And if that's the case, that's why you hit them a little bit harder. hit them twice as hard. Hit them with $1,000. The next time, make it $2,000. By the third time, you make it about $4,000 or $5,000. Take their damn license away from them. You should take their license away from them on number 2. Give them a chance on 1. Let them know. Okay, look, everybody deserves, a chance here, but everybody should already know how dangerous it is, because the family that driver ends up killing or, injuring, they don't get a second chance. They don't get a third chance. I'm asking, hey, give them another chance. All right, here's another story. We're just going to jump right on into it because I'm running out of time here. I'm babbling on and stuff. But I think the fine should be a little bit higher, okay, honestly, to tell you the truth. Here is a story that I get from NBC4i out in Ohio. And believe it or not, they are number 2 on my list. And I thank Ohio for stepping in.
In the same week that a distracted driver weaved along 315 and struck a telephone pole which crumpled over their car, Governor Mike DeWine laid out plans to tackle distracted driving. Phil Renaud, executive director of the Risk Institute at OSU, says Ohio is one of only 4 states, including Montana, that currently doesn't have hands-free laws.
It's kind of scary because what we found is that people underestimate the risk of distracted driving. They have an overconfidence in their skills to be able to drive distracted. And that is completely wrong. It's just so far from being right, it's not even funny.
According to Ohio State Highway Patrol, there were nearly 25,000 distracted driving crashes in 2019 and 2020.
People are feeling much more confident in the fact that I'm surrounded by all these safety features, seat belting and airbags and all of the features that are included. So not only do they have an overconfidence in their ability to drive distracted, they're putting much more emphasis on the fact that I'm in a more safe environment. So therefore, it condones the behavior of, I can do these things because I'm in this cocoon of safety.
Governor DeWine's hands-free Ohio provisions would prohibit several actions while driving. For NBC4i.com, it's Cynthia Rozzi.
All right, again, I want to thank NBC4i in Ohio for that sound. He's right. People underestimate things. People think that they can multitask. Multitasking is good as if you're in the office or you're at home working, like cooking, cleaning. You can do that, but not getting behind the wheel. You got to remember, you have to remember that when you are driving, you are essentially in a weapon, a 3,000 to 4,000 ton weapon. Yet, you take it for granted until something happens. You're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work.
Sorry, I'm late.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. Again, I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. And this show is being dedicated to all the law enforcement agencies out there. Lord knows that we need those law enforcement agencies. And we got a couple of stories from the law enforcement agencies that are stepping up and taking control of what seems to be a pandemic, in my case, when it comes to distracted driving and, texting and driving, distracted driving, DUIs, anything unlawfully dealing with yourself behind the wheel. Okay? I've heard right now from Florida and Ohio. I got a story here from Arizona, and this comes from News 12. Actually, it's 12 News out there in Arizona, and I apologize for that. But this one here kind of gets me a little upset because this one, the fines definitely need to be boosted up, and I mean immensely on this one. You need to put it through the roof on these guys. I mean, here you are wanting to make a difference. You let them know. Because when you hear what happened and how this happened, and this is all because of a death of a officer back in 2019, these guys are trying to do some stuff, and I applaud them for it, but raise the roof on it when it comes to the fines. Again, News 12 or 12 News out there in Arizona, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
An officer citing more than 2,000 Arizonans under the state's new hands-free law. The law went into effect this year, passing after Officer Clayton Townsend tragically lost his life, hit by a man police say was distracted by a cell phone. Team 12's Michael Doudna spoke to Townsend's family and looks at the law's impact.
There's pre-January 8th and there's post-January 8th.
It was a day that changed Tony Townsend's life forever. In 2019, her son Clayton was conducting a normal traffic stop on the 101 when police say Jerry Stanstead Jr. crossed 2 lanes of traffic and hit the 26-year-old.
I was going back and forth with my wife on text and just calling.
Stanstead told police he was on his phone before the fatal crash. As Townsend's death spurring lawmakers to pass a hands-free law, fining anyone in violation $75 to $250, hoping to cut down on distracted driving.
And since the law went into full effect in January, we've seen departments hand out citations to make sure you stay hands-free. Phoenix PD, they've handed out 444 citations. DPS, 1,637. Mesa PD, another 21. That makes more than 2,100 drivers cited in just 52 days.
There's not a doubt in my mind that whether it was a DPS officer or a police officer, that a life was saved.
But Tony says more work needs to be done. She thinks the fines are too low and that although everyone knows they shouldn't text and drive, they don't truly understand the potential life and death decisions made by a text behind the wheel.
The man that killed Clayton didn't drive home that night thinking, I'm going to kill an officer.
And Tony misses her son every day. She hopes the legislation passed because of his sacrifice saves lives and makes him proud of the progress they've made.
I'd tell him how much I miss him, and I'll see him again.
Now, the driver of that car that killed Townsend was indicted on a manslaughter charge. In December, he pled not guilty, and his trial is slated for May. We're in Phoenix. Michael Doudna, 12 News.
And again, that came from 12 News, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. Again, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com. But the first offense is $75 to $150. $75 to $150 or $149. The second offense is $150 to $250. Let's make that the first offense $1,000 and the second offense $1,500 to $2,000. Depends on the criteria there. I mean, was the guy a jerk or whatever the case might be? Again, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. This show was definitely dedicated to all the law enforcement agencies that are out there risking their lives to help keep you safe behind the wheel. So in this case, you guys have got to do your part and keep those law enforcement agencies and those officers safe. They're out there protecting you. You in turn protect them and keep your hands on the wheel and your phone in the glove box. Remember, I don't want to die today, do you? Until the next show, be safe.